Good?
Play the music.
We are live.
Nice.
Welcome to Cahoots Live, everybody. We are here with our guest this week, Eric Cunliffe.
Also our cell phones.
And our cell phones. It's a very hip, modern show.
It's time to light the lights.
We are here with our guest this week, Eric Cunliffe. Hey, look.
It's working. You just said that.
I just said that. Welcome to the show.
I heard him say it.
So yeah, let's roll right into it. Eric, tell our lovely home live viewing audience what you do.
What I do, I offer, in a way, self-empowerment through the science and art of yoga.
Nice.
Yeah, meditation techniques, yoga, which in the West we think of just postures, but yoga is much more broad spectrum than that. The physical practice of yoga is what we call asana, but I teach that pretty much every day of the week at this point, which I love. And then I do Thai massage as well. And I do kind of one-on-one yoga therapy sessions. It's in no way am I a certified therapist, but that's what has been dubbed the name for that. And it's just working through personal stuff through the philosophy and skillfulness of yoga and meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Realized Patrick was.
I'm back.
We lost to Patrick. Well,
Getting
like,
a hug,
I think we
but
can
for
all.
your brain.
It's worth saying that we all, like, Eric is one of my closest and dearest friends. He's also the yoga teacher for everyone who's sitting here in front of the camera right now. So we obviously trust Eric with our bodies and minds.
We trust Eric with our bodies and minds.
And
Yes,
minds.
we do.
I do.
Which means a lot because we've known each other since grade 7.
Yeah.
So, that I guess speaks to
Yes, the longevity of our relationship.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think like you're just a trustworthy guy.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I mean,
It's like not a lot of people I would trust to tell me like stretch your body in this way. I'm a skeptic by nature. So when someone tells me like this is good for you, I'm like I don't believe it for a second. But yoga.
Catch me, Eric.
So Eric,
He was
what
gonna do
is your first experience with yoga?
if we talk about yoga in the broadest spectrum, without getting too philosophical,
Yes.
you could say that would be birth, but first experience with, or maybe even in utero, I don't
Okay,
remember.
I'm putting the phone down for
But
this.
my first real, authentic experience with meditation, because really yoga, especially the physical aspect of yoga, is just meditation in motion. Or what one great teacher told me is physical aspect of yoga is just a way to trick you into breathing, right? Which the breath is the strongest connection to the nervous system. So I started meditating quite naively around the age of 13, which was very young, without a teacher, just the internet and books at my disposal, and heavily influenced by friends at the time, and the culture that we were diving into, music, classic rock, classic literature, Beat Generation, the 60s, and I just got curious. And then the other drive for me was my own discomfort, my own suffering, my own, curiosity about the world, culture, our species, death, everything. That was just this motivator, and in very positive ways, and also motivating, not in a bad way, but the more uncomfortable sides of life to get me in that direction. So grateful for both too. Yeah.
Okay. Who would be like a role model or just somebody that you looked up to?
Other than Dylan.
The guy in the Nintendo hat.
Yeah. And I've had so many throughout my life. I mean, one of my major influences from the beginning was a man by the name of Jack Kerouac, which has been given more popularity than he really wanted. And he was a very, what you might consider a naive Buddhist practitioner. He was very much, very, very elementary at it. And he had his own problems that he dealt with. So seeing that was also kind of fruitful. It's like, okay, this wasn't really successful. This wasn't really skillful. He burnt out. He ended up dying at a rather young age, I believe in 1969. And from there it was people like Ram Dass, moving into like Thoreau and Emerson. I went very classical, and then I started to find my real teachers that I could sit with one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my biggest influences would have been a man by the name of Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk.
Okay.
And he's still alive. I think he's in his 90s now.
I have like 4 of his books because of you.
Yeah, he's fabulous. A lot of the literature kind of repeats itself at this point, but with Thich Nhat Hanh, I mean, he grew up with what's called engaged Buddhism. So not just meditating, hoping for the best, that kind of thing. He was out handing medicine during the Vietnam conflict and was almost killed multiple times. But I've meditated this close to him, and he kind of looks like Yoda. He's kind of like an old Vietnamese kind of like,
Yeah.
but powerful messages. Sit in for 3-hour lectures, meditate beside him. I was even able to give him his one like indulgence as a Buddhist monk. You don't really have those. He loves Canadian maple syrup.
Huh.
So I was at a monastery in New York State, and he came into. I was living with the monastics at the time, just as a visitor practitioner, volunteering for an 1,100 person meditation retreat. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago now, and he walked in behind me, and you kind of sit a little taller when you know there's someone who you might consider enlightened standing behind you, putting his very, very soft, sweet hands on monk's shoulders, greeting everyone. And so I had this gift that someone had given me to give to him, and so I was fortunate enough to turn around, and it's just this big, smile. And it's beautiful. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Let's talk a little bit about yoga as a trend. Do you think like the core sort of philosophy behind the practice is lost completely or at all, or does it depend on the style of yoga that you practice?
For sure. And I mean, I'll say right away that I'm not a major voice or study on this. I've been teaching for 7+ years, practicing yoga, like physical yoga, since I was 15. So, where's that? How many years is that? 12 now? Wow. And then meditation longer, and just studying. But and I do have my advanced training. So I went to India to study and train, and a bunch of different schools, and pulled my philosophy from a lot of different places.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a philosophy.
Yeah.
Right? Some people, there's fundamentalism wherever you go. Right? Matt and I have had long talks about this. And I don't think that it has any skillful or conscious direct base in yoga, or if you're practicing Buddhism or meditation as well. And meditation's for everyone. But getting back to your question, I would say, and I've had this conversation a lot with a lot of people recently, that yoga in the West is going through a bit of a renaissance and a crisis of faith at the same time, which is a very strange thing to have simultaneously. And we're getting a lot of what I've heard called half-baked yoga.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My personal outlook on this is, if you're doing it, fantastic. If you have one toe in the door, you're already in the zone. You're already starting to pay attention. That's the most important thing. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of strange incarnations. I am not supportive of any type of yoga where you can go to a studio and drink alcohol while you see the posts on Facebook, and
that exists.
It's interesting. Yeah, there's called beer yoga. You have craft beer yoga.
Just get hammered and
that would be so stinky.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's just
that would
weird.
be gross.
Hot studio, cold beer. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But the point is that you're spending time with yourself, and you're not focused on something else.
Yeah.
You're working inwards.
Yeah.
I fast for 18 hours before I go to hot yoga, just in case the girl next to me is,
Yeah, and it does. Like, I taught in London, Ontario for a year, and near Western University, and we would have some university students come in on the weekend after a night of drinking, and it smells. I mean, it's a great way to detox, but we use it as almost an excuse for what we don't do when we're on the mat.
Yeah.
And what I teach is that what you practice on the mat should be transferred, translated, and transformed into your daily life. Why else would you do it?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, if I'm only going to eat healthy for 1 hour of the day, and then eat garbage for the other 23 hours, then it just doesn't compute.
Yeah.
So it's the time on the mat is about hardcore practice that helps elevate you for when you're out in the real world, when you're having conversations, when someone cuts you off in traffic, when you're feeling stressed out, your cortisol levels are out of whack. It's, yoga's a journey that shouldn't shy away from the negative, but there's a lot of yoga that's being taught that's very much the peace and love and happiness, without talking about the shadow side of life, which we all know is there. It's going to come either way.
Yeah.
So I teach that, and I was given a philosophy by one of my teachers called being a wave rider, and it's just staying above surface. And it's sometimes the wave, your highs, and then you get your troughs, right? You get your lows, and it's ride the wave and be in this life, not trying to be so selective of I'm going to push this away because I really don't like tomatoes, but I like that candy bar over there. It's this chase that's never going to end, and it's not skillful. So it's teaching skillfulness. My favorite definition for yoga is the art of skillful participation and engagement with life.
Yeah.
There's no talk about Lululemon. There's no talk about your mat or how great your downward dog looks or how many arm balances you can do. So because in the West we do live a little bit more from the superficial ego, that comes into the practice, and that's okay. That's okay. We're young. We're a young species. We're a young society. We're still working the kinks out. Just show up for yourself, right? Whether it's on your own, to a class, you can meditate, in your garden, or when you're playing music, or when you're playing hockey. Like those are, if you're in it, that's meditation, and that's
it's learning how to develop a lifestyle, and I think maybe even I'm guilty of this too. And even when I first started doing classes with you, it's sort of like, okay, I'll go to my 1 hour yoga class, get in my mindfulness session for the week, and then move on and do other stuff. Right?
Yeah.
But it's sort of like
everything's got its little compartment, and you tick the box off as you go along in your week. It's like 8 hours work today, 30 minutes of, and I feel that's part of the pressure of, I go to some of these classes, and I'm not going to name names, but it doesn't matter if I'm in the city or in smaller areas. Some of the classes are just like too many things at once.
Yeah.
Like
they're trying to pump you through, right? Or they're trying to give too much of an experience at once.
And some people are just looking for the fitness aspect.
Totally.
A stretch.
And let's be honest, I mean, yoga can feel so good that it's almost like a hit or a fix. And that's a danger. And I'll go to other, classes to learn and to explore and to see what other people are saying and to really still be, right with what's current. And sometimes they're amazing classes. Sometimes I go, okay, that needed to be adjusted. Like there wasn't enough safety for the students, or there wasn't enough grounding, right? Like we live on our phones. We live so distracted, not in and of ourselves, that the first thing I do when people come to a yoga class is we ground. And some people don't like that. Some people are like, I just want to move. And it's fine, but it's like you're starting, trying to climb stairs, but you're way back there, and you're just doing these giant lunges forward when you can just take one step at a time. Be skillful, right? It's that piece, and it is a great practice. And it's not about measuring where you are, right? Like if you're at home and you're going to yoga just for a little bit of reprieve because your life is very stressful, right? Like let's see, one of the most stressful jobs is a chef, right? You work in the kitchens. And it's insane. It's insane. So their cortisol levels are high. Their diurnal clock's out of whack. There's a lot of pressure to finish the day and have a few drinks. And so we're not really dealing with, what we need to. And there's a lot of high stressful jobs like that. Our first responders, they're my heroes. Like, okay, we're just sitting having a chat. I have a few clients that are paramedics, and then it's just like, okay, sirens up. We got to just get and go. And then you come across a scene that's horrible. So yoga is about working on how to properly digest that. So it's the metaphor that I like to use is you've got a garden that you're caring for, you're tending. It's a little overgrown. There's quite a few weeds, and your job is to go in very, very precisely and skillfully pull the weeds with care and replace with wholesome seeds. Nurture them, nourish them, get them the proper nutrients, water, sun, a little fertilizer, and you take the weeds and you put it in the compost pile, and you compost your shit. Just keep composting until it turns into some good stuff. And one of the biggest pieces of advice one of my teachers gave me, his name was Devarshi. He said, "Go and make a mess, but learn how to clean it up." And I think that's so true, because we're so afraid of, like, especially in the yoga community, like, I've got to be pure. People make mistakes. People fall from grace. And it's not condoning some of their behavior. There's been some unfortunate things that have happened in the yoga community, but make a little bit of a mess and then learn how to clean it up, right?
Well, what's your strategy for cleaning? Like, because a lot of people, they'll get into their daily life, they do their yoga, and like you said, it's sort of compartmentalized. how do you implement that in your daily life? When
So
you find you're in road rage mode, you're pissed because you forgot something at the grocery store that you were supposed to get. Like, how do you draw that in and find that mindfulness?
So let's break this down really quickly. The first thing, if you're in a moment of rage, the first thing you need to do is find two things: your hands, one, so they're not around someone's throat. Two, your feet, because when most people are angry, they're about this far off the ground, and you need to be grounded. And then the last thing I would tell you to do is to sit and meditate. Like, don't.
Yeah.
Because it's like putting yourself in a pressure cooker. Go for a walk. Get out of your head. Get out of the situation. Mm-hmm. It's toxic. It's corrosive. You need to move through that initial reaction and move towards a response, right? If it's a dynamite stick, get out of the blast zone and then work on it skillfully. What I do, because most of us in the West, it's like I either want, the pill to fix everything. Do you guys remember the ab shocker? Mm-hmm. You strap it on and it just sends a decent amount of voltage into your abs and contracts the muscles and doesn't do anything. That's what most people want, right?
It's just a Band-Aid quick fix solution.
We don't want to do the work. The secret is the joy is in the work.
Yeah.
It's just getting started. And people try, at that point when they realize that, they try and bite off more than they can chew. When have you tried to change something in your life and gone, I'm going to do a 180 today, and then maybe a day or two down the road, you're just back to your usual self, right?
Oh, yeah.
You need a 1 degree shift. And I'm borrowing this from one of my main teacher, who I love dearly. Her name is Kobe Kozlowski. She teaches out of Massachusetts, where I've gone to school. And I learned from her in India, trained from her there. And she calls it the 1 degree shift. So if you guys can imagine, let's say we've got Halifax Harbor. And you've got a nice large vessel that's leaving Halifax Harbor and it's going to the Western Cape of Africa, to some port there, Ivory Coast, let's say. And you type in the coordinates, but then you change the coordinates by 1 degree. Is that going to end up in its desired space?
Oh, of course not.
No, it's probably going to end up closer to Spain,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You need one thing. I want one thing to change.
Yeah.
And not one day, not a week. I'm talking 40 solid days.
Yeah. And then over time, you start to see results,
so make that
right?
1 degree shift right every day. Day 1, did I do it? Right? If you don't do it, if you miss a day, go and learn how to begin again. Most of us just build up the stress, build up the disappointment of ourselves, this shame of and it's just this layer. It's like this sedimentary layer of pressure on our chest. Alleviate it. Just learn how to begin again. You're new at this. As far as we know, none of us have ever been here before, whatever your thoughts are on reincarnation. But we're still children in a sense, learning how to live our lives, learning how to be in a relationship with someone else and in a healthy relationship with ourselves. Yesterday I taught a great workshop on the heart chakra, which is, a lot of people hear that chakra and it's like, oh, that's airy-fairy. For me, it's the science-based, how can we focus our attention here and work from this aspect, right? The heart's connected to the hands. This is how we give or take, create or destroy, love or hurt. The heart chakra is where the creativity comes, right? It's being from the heart. It's your core, right? In French, the word for heart is cor, from the root core. Spanish, corazon, same thing. So it's building blocks in yoga to try and find the skillfulness. And for the stress level from those things that happen and explode on you, take a couple of breaths. It seems stupid, that's the simple thing, but the answer is take a couple of breaths. Learn how to breathe properly. Most of us breathe in the top third of our lungs, the short and shallow. The most effective way, the most direct way to change your nervous system, change how you feel in your interaction between body and mind, is your breath. Yeah. And it just starts with a breath that you go from as low as you can. So I say belly, even though your lungs don't go that low, but you need to create room in your abdominal cavity, your chest cavity to expand. And it's this breath into belly, ribs, chest, smooth and slow, not this, and this exhale, smooth and slow down.
Yeah.
Take 3 of those, and it's already starting to massage.
Well, that's like a Tony Robbins thing too. He was talking about when he was being, and I don't know if he's coming from the same place, but he was talking about when you're struggling with just feeling really bummed out or unmotivated, the first thing you should do is just change your physiology instantly. Stand up taller, breathe deeper, right? And then just physically making that changes your mindset, right?
Well, it's reconnecting with your body, right? That's a Buddhist idea, is that if you lose when you aren't connected to yourself. And when your breath isn't connected to your body, then you aren't then your mind's not, it's all out of order. until you all bring it all back in line.
Yeah.
So it is sort of, I think that is almost the exact same thing. He's coming at it maybe from more of like a, be powerful kind of mindset, but I think it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah. And you know, also knowing that you're meant to feel the not so fun side of life too.
Yeah.
Let it wash through you. We have an aversion to it. Be of it. We call it the flavors of life in tantric yoga, which is what I study and practice. And tantric yoga is this philosophy that you know, we're all part of the same fabric of the universe. There's not this disconnect. We just have consciousness experiencing itself in as many forms as possible. And tantric yoga really likes physics. And what I love about the teachers that I've studied with is, you know, the question comes about, what if science disproves something, say in Buddhism or yoga or this new age yoga philosophy that we have? And across the board, the answer is, well, then we'll have to adjust the philosophy, right? So it's very much pairing up with the science because, like Dylan, I'm a huge skeptic. I'm very much in and of that idea that you must question everything, you know. And if we ask, you know, the old school side of things, like you know, the Buddha. He said, don't believe a single word I say. You know, whether or not the man actually existed or whatever. But don't believe a single word I say. Question everything. So my question for you guys is, when we have those moments, we know what to do, right? If basically I just gave you 3 or 4 things that you could totally do instantly in practice and work at for the rest of your life. Super simple, very powerful. How do you remember to do it though? That's the challenge. What do we have to involve in our lives to get to the point of like, oh, I'm having a moment of anxiety or a moment of pain or a moment of anger or a moment of complete, you know, just the pressure on the chest, depression?
Well, I guess it would just be making it a habit, right? It would be a combination of a few things.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Thich Nhat Hanh says the same thing in his book. Is use habit energy. It's the strongest force acting on you at any time is that habit energy of like you've been doing it, so you keep doing it without thinking. So
either you two are brilliant or I'm a good teacher. I don't.
Well, too. And then the other thing is,
you sent me in the direction of Thich Nhat Hanh, and we've discussed it plenty of times.
Well, and that's the beauty of friends, right? Because we've, you know, I wouldn't be here without the support of all the beautiful people in my life. The people who, like, the gratitude I have for getting to do what I love to do, and to have people come and see me for that. And what I really have to push for people is, okay, I can only take you as far as I've gone myself, so I have to go further and further and further and continue and live authentically. You have to be on when you teach you. I've worked over a dozen different jobs, and there have been moments where you can kind of slack off. This one's like, no, you got to be awake. You got to be there. You can't, you know, have a moment of
because people are looking to you for as their leader and their mentor,
and to hold
right?
space, to hold, you know, like you know, I have people have little moments where they cry, either tears of joy or sorrow as they're working through stuff. People who come to me, we joke with in the yoga teacher community that we're just therapists because people come to you with their pain because that's what yoga's about. It's diving into the inquiry of life and all of it. So you guys said it perfectly. Habit patterns. In the brain, when we know about the synapse connections, is that whatever fires together wires together. So if I, you know, imagine that you've got this big pile of like conical shaped sand, and I take a pitcher of water and I pour it, it's not going to go evenly over the sand. It's going to carve little tributaries down. And that's what habit patterns are. Whether it's, you know, your habit of getting up in the morning, and if you have to, you know, you've done it for 50 years, and if you have to deviate, you get upset. People that have carved out a little bit of obsessive compulsive habits, you know, just the way you start your car or the way you pour your coffee or the way you brush your teeth, right? We had a high school teacher, Mr. Colley, who was like, tomorrow or tonight, hopefully you brush your teeth twice. And he said, you try your left hand if you're right-handed, or vice versa, and just see what happens, right? It was, I don't know about you, it was a mess. And
I still do it every once in a while.
I do too.
It's
hard.
Keith, if you're watching, you've made an impact.
You have made an impact.
It really is, like, it's one of the best ways to remind yourself. It's like patting your head and rubbing your belly and going like, I'm not completely in control of what's happening. I am. Like, I'm. There's still that consciousness, whatever it is, without going into the philosophy of consciousness, whatever it is, it's there. That's me. It's not the way I brush my teeth. I can change that, but I'm being controlled by the way I've done it before. Yeah. And it is like, it's a really powerful moment when you go like, oh God, like I can't even do this. Like I don't even know how.
And it becomes, it becomes liberating and empowering when you start to dive into more than just doing the postures.
Yeah.
The breathing will help facilitate an awareness that's deep through the body, but once you become aware of the thinking mind, you all of a sudden ascend to a higher state of consciousness, because you're realizing that this is limited, and that's not you. But we put ourselves down almost in every moment, whether we know it consciously or not, as we've limited ourselves to going, this is me. I focus on the things that I'm good at, and I let, it's like in a relationship, well, they take care of the finances because I'm not good at that. Well, eventually it's going to get to a point where you're only sharpening this pencil and it's going to go down to the nub. You need to start working on this full facet of things. So with this healthy idea of habits and carving new pathways in the brain, it's hard to break old ones. It's painful at times. It feels physiologically, you feel this discomfort when you try and break away from old habits and make new ones, but it takes time. And the other piece that I would add to my question for you guys is being in relationship with your suffering, more than just not wanting anything to do with it, knowing that it's there, and having this internal dialogue of like, oh, I'm angry right now, and I realize I'm angry right now, and I can do something about it, right? I'm not completely out of control. When we step back from that small mind, we call this witness consciousness. And that's really all I'm trying to facilitate for people, is the breathing to calm the nervous system and help all the other systems of the body, your lymphatic system, your musculoskeletal, strengthening bones and muscles, your endocrine system, so your hormonal system. All of these things are helped, whether minutely or drastically, like the digestive system. We do breathing exercises. I mean, your metabolic rate's up, you help digest. Morning class is great, but generally people have to go to the bathroom right afterwards, right? So when we take that step back and find witness consciousness, we begin to realize something that's really, really important, that's really going to find liberating for people. And this is a little heavy, but you are not your mind. You are that which experiences the mind thinking.
Right.
That was life changing for me when I read that off of a page. I was like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I need to go back over that.
Whoa.
And like there'll be people in the philosophy world who disagree with that, but it's so natural to me once you realize my thoughts are something I'm experiencing. Yeah. They aren't me. We have this habit to go, my thoughts, that's me. That thing, that voice in my head. It's like, wait, no, but I'm experiencing those. So
at least for me, my thoughts often, if I'm faced with a decision to make, are a collection of 10 other people's voices from my childhood. Usually, like, well, my dad would say to do this, but my grandpa would say this or that, right? So it's like,
exactly. Yeah. And if your thoughts were you, then how would you go against your thoughts ever? And we do every day. Like, how many times do you think I shouldn't eat that?
Yeah.
And then you eat it without even realizing, you're like, hold on, why am I eating this? I told myself I wasn't going to do this.
Yeah, like, time for another session of good idea, bad idea.
And the thing is, like, if you're mindful, you see those thoughts and you have time to react to them.
Totally. And there's nothing wrong with the thoughts, right? Like, there's this preconceived idea with a lot of Western practitioners, I can't still my mind. There is no stillness. And there's a lot of yoga teachers that say, still the body. Wait a second. But physics says that all matter is light particles condensed to a slow vibration. Keyword vibration. Everything's moving. Atoms are swirling. Things are connecting and passing electrons here and there. And everything's molding together and also falling apart and unraveling at the same time, right? That's why things age and disintegrate and then are reborn, and energy is being transferred. And that's physics, and I love it. And I have a very limited understanding of physics, but what I do understand, it blows my mind, and it very much facilitates the yogic philosophy. And it informs the yogic philosophy because it is a philosophy, and that's, again, people get almost in a religious sense for it.
Yeah, so what percentage of people come to you thinking they're just getting a good workout? And then
lots of people, and that's okay. That's okay. And they get the philosophy too, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, is it challenging trying to like educate, I guess, your customer base to know that it's more than just, stretching and, vigorous workout. It's there's a huge philosophical element to the practice, right? Like
absolutely. I mean, that's the inherent piece for me. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me interested in my life. So without sounding cheesy, everything is a metaphor for something else.
Yeah.
So when I see, what I love is the diversity, because I'll have, say I have 20 people in a class.
Yeah.
I'm teaching a workshop. Everybody needs something different. Everyone has, different needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you might come in, and I planned something out that's a lot of, leg postures and heavy on maybe some lunges and warrior poses and such, and you've got a bum knee, right? Mm-hmm. And then, we're going to do a little bit of upper body stuff, postures and stuff to facilitate breathing and maybe get heart openers and stuff. But Bob, he's got a bum shoulder, right? Mm-hmm. And Dylan's been experiencing some anxiety lately. Mm-hmm. So what I love is that my job, it's passion really, mm-hmm. is this constant broad sweeping mm-hmm. scale, right? So there's always the sense of the micro. So we look through a microscope. Similar things are happening on the macro, right? So there's like what's happening down here. You can kind of see similarities in the cosmos on a mm-hmm. Poetic and maybe scientific level. So that's the way I approach it, because I have people come in that need this, and need this. I offer my own flair and flavor from what I've learned and then built myself. Mm-hmm. And some people love it and some people don't. And that's the thing. If you don't love what I offer, I am so happy to find someone who would be better off for you. I'd rather have someone get more from another teacher than stay with me and get kind of this mediocre experience, because it's more personality and flavor. Mm-hmm. And I teach with a lot of humor. I remember the age of 13 or 14 reading advice from the Buddha. And he said, if you find a teacher, which everyone should have teachers, or at least realize that there are teachers in their lives. Everyone's a teacher, really, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I learn from everyone in this room. Mm-hmm. And now all of my students, I learn from each one of them. They teach me so much. But totally. If you find a teacher that doesn't have a sense of humor, run, because they're trying to kill you. Yeah. Words of the Buddha. And I believe that, because this life has humor. It has to have humor. I mean, I have a professional artist, comedian beside me. You know this, right? Yeah. Humor attaches people to each other. It allows us to overcome these boundaries and the deep-seated pain that can come about.
So that ties militant into about making sure people are like if someone doesn't have a sense of humor, it's true, they're trying to kill you. Yeah. They may not be aware that they're doing it, but if someone who has no sense of humor I don't even know how to explain it, but there's something fundamentally wrong there. And people often, something terrible happened to me, and I tend to laugh, and I say, it's kind of funny, isn't it? And that phrase just upsets people. They're like, no, it's not. Be sad. They want you to be mad and angry and sad about things. We're like, why are you so positive about things? And I have my angry moments and my grumpy moments, and I tend to complain. I'm a complainer. But I come at things with humor, and even when I'm complaining, I tend to be trying to make people laugh. That's my goal, is to just bring humor to a situation.
Because it's medicine, but humor to me is also a healthy perspective on suffering, on a situation that's not so great, right? Yeah. And humor also, we talk about comedians pushing the envelope for understanding, pushing the envelope for
They're the
vision.
Gatekeepers.
They're the gatekeepers. And they do go to a point where, say, offense is not given, it's taken, right? Mm-hmm. So it's trying to find where we are as a society and a culture, and humor to a degree makes it into the practice, because you're deliberately putting yourself through an uncomfortable experience in yoga at times. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to do these postures. At the same time, I'm trying to get you to facilitate a breath that keeps you as calm as you would be if you were laying down or seated like we are right now, but you're on top of your head, right? Yeah. So to me, advanced yoga isn't crazy poses, isn't being able to make yourself look like Gumby or a pretzel all folded up. Mm-hmm. Advanced yoga is presence, it's awareness, it's understanding that this is uncomfortable, but I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my mind. I'm not my mind racing going, I want out of this, I want out of this. No. Keep in mind there's a difference between pain and discomfort. Pain, to me, is the only time you're doing something wrong in a yoga practice, right? Yeah. With the teacher helping to facilitate proper alignment and those sorts of things. So the practice strictly is about equilibrium. It's about balance. Humor helps balance people.
So do you see those laughter yoga sessions, right? They have these. Is that credible?
And I mean, I think that's where we can come back to my piece on yoga going through a bit of an identity crisis, because it's being used for so much. People just say yoga means union. It means yoking together. This unifying nature, which it does. Yeah. The philosophy of yoga that I teach from states that we're already all unified. We've gotten distracted. The mind unravels in all these infinite directions, and we just need to bring it back to that balance, that equilibrium, that equal state equilibrium. Homeostasis for the body, equilibrium for the mind. And I like the term. Some people call themselves in the yoga world healthcare practitioners, and I can see that, but I would say, maybe a chiro or a physio would be a healthcare practitioner. Obviously, doctors, nurses, doulas, and midwives. Some of my heroes in the healthcare world. What I would say is we're wellness practitioners. Where's the well-being, and can we push ourselves? I have a personal training background, massage. All of these things help. It's kind of like a, more than just a one-fingered hand, right? It's like I've got more to hold here, and it is going through an identity crisis. I'm not against things like, I think laughter yoga is great. We did a little bit in school once, but I haven't taken a full class. People constantly ask me about, say, goat yoga and stuff. I'm not going to teach it. When it first came out, I was like, is that slightly insulting to my profession? I'm not sure. And I've had time to think about it. And, as I said, one toe in the door. It's interesting. But to me, it takes a little bit away from the mindfulness piece because there's that distraction, like having a beer. I love goats. I've worked with goats. They're kind of evil in some ways. Yeah. They're super cute and I adore them. And they're fun to work with. They've got crazy eyes and make hilarious sounds. Yeah. But they also eat anything. They'll eat tin cans in your shirt while you're, and poop on you while you're trying to do yoga. So to me that detracts a little bit. But if somebody wants to do that, right, that's fun. So it's kind of like a yes and a no answer. I'm not going to teach it. Same as there's death metal screaming yoga. I get people that do the Tarzan all the time in my classes. It's hilarious.
Let it out. Let out. It's a release of tension.
It's a release of tension.
That's what laughter is, right?
Exactly.
That's when you said, as soon as you said laughter yoga, there's an exercise that I teach when I'm doing improv classes, especially with big groups, is just laugh and passing laughter growing and realizing that tension's already in you. You like it's there. It's waiting to be released. That's why people laugh. Yeah. Like otherwise no one would ever laugh. That tension wasn't just sitting there. We're always in a state of tension. Social tension, just any kind of tension you can imagine comes out as laughter. If you survive being attacked by a lion, you're probably going to go, oh,
did you guys see that?
Have a little breakdown. Release the tension, right?
And it's an evolutionary thing that's built into us to release tension, right? And we need that release valve, right? And so as soon as you said laughter yoga, I'm like, I'm kind of on the fence about that because I think yoga isn't maybe about necessarily letting all of that go and just and turning into a bowl of spaghetti, which is what laughter is for me. Like true, real gut laughter is about not having control. It's about letting all that. You're literally like a balloon being untied and just letting it all deflate. And it'll come back in. That's what a good comic does. They sort of tease it back into you by building and building and building anticipation. And then when they hit you with a punchline, it releases that tension again. And it's an ebb and flow. I think that's what yoga is too.
Absolutely. We build it up. My job, in a sense, on a physical level, in a physiological level, is to calm you, then slowly stress you out, but try and keep you calm at the same time, so that you're actually strengthening what's called your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and repose relaxation. Your sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight response, which is your stress, right? So I'm slowly getting you to really have a healthy relationship with you, your nervous system, your connection, your mind, your body. And I would argue that comedy, that laughter facilitates a certain type of breathing. A certain type of breathing exercise and an awareness of breathing.
It's like yawning.
Oh man, I've been to comedy. You've made me laugh to the point where I couldn't breathe and went, oh, I'm aware of the fact that I'm not breathing, and then I've slowly take it back in, and then you cut my oxygen supply off again with more hilarity.
That's the magic of comedy. It's the magic of drama. It's the magic of anything that makes you feel, regardless of what you want to feel.
It's and that's controlling I guess music too. It's kind of controlling energy, right? If you're
I've had some of the most mindful experiences of my life at live shows. John Butler Trio.
Playing
the ocean in Paris, and I'm just like I feel like I'm having some sort of like enlightening experience.
Same exact song. I was in Nashville, Tennessee in the dead heat, and I felt like I was standing in the Arctic, like just chills.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that we both had that same mindfulness experience with the same song by
there you
the
go,
same
John.
artist
If you're
in two
watching this,
different
John, you've got it, buddy. You've got the magic.
Yeah.
As so many artists do. As you guys do. I mean, I've listened to you guys play, and it blows my mind. And your teachers, your experiences, you don't have to go to India to find enlightenment. You don't have to go to this. It's right here.
That's true.
There's no
separateness. You were talking about
separateness.
that earlier. It's
Yeah.
not like it should never be about a destination or a result. It's just it's getting there. How you going to get
Dude,
there? It's a process.
The work is right here. It's
Yeah.
if we talk about a type of meditation called Anapana, it's focusing on that upper reach, like mustache region of the upper nostrils, or upper lip rather, the opening of the nostrils and through the nostrils. Be aware of the sensation of air moving across that. Do that for the next 100 years. Right? Slow it down, make it nice and natural. If you're relaxed, if you need to calm yourself down, take some slow, smooth, deep breaths. You know, and that's, I mean, I get to facilitate people living authentically, being genuine. I mean, that's like, there's no better job. I have the best job in the world. And I get to be with people, and we get to be vulnerable together. We get to be real together. We get to be strong and weak together. And I just gratitude. I just ooze gratitude. So, you know, and I have my days. Like, I have my days when I'm tired. Like right now I'm teaching a lot of classes a week. And it's great. And I have a small studio here in Kincardine, which I love. And I do events. I do massages where I get to work one-on-one with people. And they really get to let go as I help almost, massage the tension out of their body and give them an experience and use compassion to do that. It's understanding my own suffering so that I can see yours and be compassionate and empathetic with yours. That's where people from the outside looking in see yoga and meditation as like, well, you're spending all this time on yourself. This is very selfish, really. I'd argue the exact opposite. I have to be there for someone. If Bob, who's handsome and behind the camera right now, if he needs me for something, if he's having a moment where he needs me, I need to be strong. If I haven't been sleeping well and taking care of myself, if my diet is crap, I have no idea what meditation is, if I've steered away from my authentic self and who I perceive that to be, I'm no use to him. I'm just a buddy that's there, and I might be able to hold space, and he's going to be able to feel comforting that I might just be there, but I'm really not there. I'm lost in my own train of thoughts and my own habit patterns and my own suffering. We call them samskaras, right? We're just lost. So finding this equilibrium, taking care of yourself, that old adage of you can't love someone else truly until you love yourself, that's true. It just is. And things will fail if we're not taking care of ourselves and then facilitating that, right? A healthy parent generally equals a healthy child, right? A mindful, present parent that's not just like, here's a tablet, whatever. And not in any judgment of parents.
Yeah, none of us have kids.
I don't have kids. I've worked with children for years. I teach kids yoga. I worked in a daycare. It is bar none the hardest job in the world. And you guys are my heroes, especially the mothers of the world. Hold the glue of the world together, lift us up. But and there's times when you need to just distract yourself because mom and dad need some space. But I am seeing a trend since I worked in daycare years ago. The kids are even more distracted, having a harder time to focus. There's a disorder called nature deficit disorder. That's a thing. Doctors are prescribing time outside for children and adults. Doctors are prescribing yoga, which is great. Like,
Can you imagine when we were kids if someone had to prescribe us time outside?
No, man, what?
You couldn't get me inside to save your life. I sometimes I literally would disappear for the entire day and come back when the sun started setting.
When I got grounded inside. It's like now kids are like, you're kicked outside.
Exactly, You're like, I can't go outside? How am I going to get in touch with my friends? Because you can't get a hold of them unless you can walk to them.
And without cell phones.
Weird.
And I appreciate the facilitation of connectivity and safety through technology and cell phones and keeping the children safe, of course, but letting them get dirty, and some parents are incredible at that. Like I've met, some of the best parents I've ever met have just become parents. My older brother is my nephew's going to be one. Is it the 30th today? I think.
Is it that? Is it
it's
sure
the 30th,
is.
and there's is it 31 days in this month?
All the rest of 30
days. So in 15 days, he becomes 1. And this weekend, they had him in Inverhuron Park. Yeah. And they just sent me a picture of him in a playpen underneath the cedars, looking up at the sky, camping and stuff. And I just thought, so, and then I know it's harder for people who live in city centers and urban areas, but there's, there's actually people who get paid to take other people for a walk, like dogs. Mm-hmm. That's a thing.
That's nuts.
People walking. Yeah. Take your shoes off.
People walking.
I
never heard of that.
Or earthing. They'll, which is great. Like get your feet actually in the grass and the sand, and it does wonders for you. Yeah. But that's why again we come back to that piece about yoga kind of going through a renaissance period because people are like, I need something. Oh yeah, it's right there. We can try yoga, but it's also going through this identity crisis of what am I?
Yeah.
Because you can go, like Toronto has a couple classes where you can go and do naked yoga.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, but it also might be really distracting.
Yeah.
And, you don't want to be doing an upward facing dog while someone's doing a downward facing dog in front of you. I don't know. Sorry, that's bad imagery. But, or there's people, it's high yoga. You get high and then you go to class and it's like, okay, why? What are we doing here? Tell me about this. Just tell me about it because it's supposed to be mindful. And again, it's just the same as consuming alcohol, right? Are you lessening your ability to be working towards a state of equilibrium, or maybe it's...
And what's your natural state? Why would you want to alter your natural state in a thing that's supposed to teach you how to alter your natural state? Why wouldn't you go in as a blank slate and find that center without the aid so you don't need it and so it doesn't become a crutch? Why would you take it into the... that's like going to a doctor with a broken leg and saying, I need a crutch. Oh, and also, could you just attach a crutch to my leg and attach a crutch to the other leg? Just give me a bunch of crutches. Yeah. I'm not going to use the one that I'm supposed to use. I need all these other crutches. And then the moment you lose them, you can't even use the one you were given in the first place because you never learned how to use it.
Totally. And it's that skillfulness. And it's be willing to learn, be willing to make a mess. I have people say to me constantly, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible. And I go, what do you think the point is?
Yeah.
You don't show up like Gumby and enlightened like the Buddha on the mat. It's like, I've got nothing to teach you. I have nothing to facilitate. Yeah. You're good. You should teach, right?
That would be like the same as somebody saying to me, I'm not going to come take guitar lessons because I can't play guitar. It's like,
but that's exactly you get for people sometimes.
Yeah. Right? That is the perfect synonym for that.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because, and a lot of guys still have it in their head that, yoga's for this type of population and not me, and I would argue that it's very much for you. You very much need it.
Well, that's the thing, because it's become a trend. It's sort of like yoga is for basic bitches, right? Yeah. And it's not, right? Yeah.
And
you were saying it was originally only men were allowed to practice.
It was
right?
supposedly so that we understand from anthropology and from history that it was originally created by men and women weren't allowed to practice it. Thank goodness that has changed. And now the ratio is just almost the opposite.
Yeah.
But men are going through a bit of a crisis of faith as we're not connecting with ourselves on a nurturing level. I
think that's starting to change.
It is starting to change because we're now starting to address the extreme sexism that is for the feminine side, for women.
And that we target at ourselves.
And we target ourselves.
We target our own sex with which just feeds back into the sexism we direct towards women.
Absolutely.
We target ourselves as I'm not manly enough. I feel bad about not being manly enough. I need to go drink a beer and I need to grow more hair on my chest somehow. and if I do yoga, I'm dragging my testosterone meter. It's like, no woman is going to be attracted to a man. Well, I guess some women might be. I can't speak to them, but men who shut down their entire brain and focus on just being, I'm insecure, because that's all it is. When you think I'm not manly enough, I need to be more manly. I can't do that. That would make me less manly. Yeah. You're just saying I'm deeply insecure. I'm too insecure to do anything that would challenge my masculinity.
I'm not willing to dive into my own suffering. Pretty much is what it is. And I that was my next point. Was yes, we've started to address the deep-seated and horrible sexism for women, but there is also sexism for men. I mean, you take a look at the Calvin Klein model that's completely ripped and photoshopped with a six-pack, which is generally unhealthy to have that low percentage of body fat. Mm-hmm. And then you've got bare chest, and they've got to be smart and sensitive but strong. They've got to have other attributes that, you know, we go for that I probably shouldn't say on camera. And, you know, it's like, and it's a shame because every single man has some sort of insecurity to deal with their own masculinity.
Every human.
Every human. And there's nothing wrong with feeling that. Like, feel it. And then there's, like, be your own individual self. And it's a shame, but I think you're right. It is starting to get addressed. And it's starting to get addressed in some healthier ways, too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, this idea that men have to be able to be violent. Like why?
Yeah.
You know, there's a sacred feminine. There's a femininity to all of us. We all have estrogen in our body. You can be nurturing and still be strong.
Mm-hmm.
And you can allow your partner, if your partner happens to be, say, a woman, whether you're a woman and your partner's a woman, or a man or whatever gender you identify with, allow them to be strong, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's with an insecure male not, like, being intimidated by a strong woman? I mean, I do personal training. I have women who are 10 times more fit than I am, and they're my heroes.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend of mine who's a paramedic and a firefighter, and she is insane. She's, in a good way, she's incredible. And she's one of my heroes, and she's so strong and so real, and she's a beautiful human being for it, right? Like, and if you're a man out there and you are with a woman, allow them to be strong, right? Allow them to climb their own mountains and help lift them up to be there, and not be like, well, I've got to be, you know, no, just let yourself, you know, lean on each other. That's what the relationship's supposed to be like, right?
Yeah.
Well, and also you sacrifice your own masculinity when you decide that the only thing that's masculine is being traditionally masculine.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we're all, everybody in this room has a beard. Everybody in here drinks beer. Like, we're all like scotch. I used to smoke a pack a day. Like, that's not a masculine thing. But I'm saying I'm not sitting here like I'm proud of my masculinity.
Yeah.
But to ignore the fact that you feel things, to ignore your creative side, to ignore your spiritual side, all these things that you're like, well, that's feelings. I can't do that. Yeah. That would make people think I'm less of a man. Is you're sacrificing that, like, that masculine part of yourself if you, like, fit it into this conformity that doesn't exist. There's no box.
I would argue that that makes you more of a man, just being in touch with
exactly
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
because it's
because you're
so
finding.
Then you have
again,
that confidence.
Where's
right?
the strength? That's what I teach people. Where's, like, what are we talking about strength here? Because again, being a personal trainer, I'm in the gym a lot, or at least for myself, and facilitating other people's exercise. And I see it all the time that, like, well, I call them the silverback gorilla male. That's like an upside down triangle and can't even turn their head. And it's like in the mirror, like spit flaring out of their mouths, and they're rolling their shoulder, doing this terrible bicep curl, lifting more weight than they ever should. And it's, just, you know, shoulders rounded forward. They're injured. You know, they're the easiest to beat in a game of tag because they can't even turn around, right? They can't turn their head. It's great. And again, they're not working on the inside, and it's such a shame that we feel that we have to be that. The body is useless without the mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If someone, unfortunately and tragically, goes into a coma, the body is there and it's functioning, but the brain is not present. It's not it, or we could get into a huge philosophical discussion about that, but you know what I mean. It's not as self-aware and diving into the interactions with itself, with its body, with life. And this is the frontier, right? This is where we experience everything through. That's why working with the nervous system is so important, and that's why yoga really is such an incredible science and technology, because we're working on that level to facilitate our own understanding of ourselves and this relationship between body and mind. This, strengthen this first, then strengthen this. Because this facilitates this. And it's people who dive into a really intense yoga practice and they haven't strengthened this, only the container. There's a huge imbalance, and I've seen a lot of people almost have a crisis moment or stop coming to yoga because they're not getting this. And for a lot of reasons is because, again, sometimes there's a lot of half-baked yoga out there where people aren't getting the full experience, you know, the full authentic experience. And I'm still tweaking my dials, right? I'll never claim to be like
And
I teach the
hopefully
best
you
yoga.
always do, right?
I will
Hopefully you
never
always
stop, and
grow.
I'll never stop learning, and that's my piece. That's my promise to my clientele. If I don't know it, I will try and find out. If I haven't experienced it, I'm going to go for it and try it, and within reason. And
I was gonna say, I got a needle over here.
Yeah, but is it clean? No. It's there's that humor piece again. It's so much facilitating the internal realm, right, and getting just cleaning the inside. And I had never realized, and I always again blanket statement. When I started doing my yoga practice as a teenager, I'd be in a twist on my back, really relaxing pose, feels good, you're breathing, and a teacher would say, okay, now you're giving your internal organs a little wringing out, a little cleanse, you're helping with your digestion as you breathe deeper and facilitate just a massaging of the internal organs. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But it's true. You have muscles on the inside, but we're always talking about, well, what's out here? Or what hurts?
Yeah.
It's always what hurts. What can I facilitate to strengthen? And we forget things. We forget that there's this whole side of us we can't even see, whether it's metaphorically or literally, and taking that time to dive into those inquiries. And there's so much more to yoga than just what is generally being taught, whether it's just the 8-limb path, we call it the Ashtanga, or the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, however you say, different pronunciations depending on the school. There's like these main facets, and I'm going, but there's so much other stuff, and there's a lot of great teachers coming out with stuff right now, and people in the yoga world tend to go, yeah, but this guy from India 200 years ago, he's the one I really want to listen to. And I'm going, sure, but we've evolved. And even hopefully that teacher would be wise enough today to go, yeah, but take a look at the people around you that are alive right now. And that's why I so love my teachers, because they're just so brilliant. And they've studied a lot of that stuff. But some of that old school stuff, I've seen footage from like the 40s, 50s, 60s of yoga classes. And some of those teachers from India are hurting their students. They do assists and like force their students into postures that I go, and that's a trip to the ER. It's not safe. So.
And it's sort of a weird thing, because people will sort of look at that as being the purest form of the practice because it's older, but the truth is,
from India,
India. But the truth is, like, it's just a law of nature that if you aren't growing, you're dying. So over time, right?
He said it.
Yeah.
The law of nature. Dhamma. There you go.
We need to start wrapping up.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it is noon, and we want to
thank you for
make sure we get
tuning
some more
in,
time
guys.
with Eric to do some more stuff. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, Eric. Where can they find you if they want to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in Kincardine, Ontario, and I do all sorts of events, massage, one-on-one workshops. I've done weddings. Any event I'll do, birthday parties, all sorts of fun stuff. I've even done one bachelor party, which was very interesting. So it was good, it was fun, it was clean, but it was actually lovely. They just wanted to work out the moment. It was great. So I'm in Kincardine. My studio and yoga facility and business is called Shakti Rhythm. You can find me on Facebook at Shakti Rhythm. Or www.shaktirhythm.com. That's Shakti, SHAKTI, and then you should know how to spell rhythm. It's always, where's the H go?
Hopefully study for the quiz.
Yeah, study for the quiz. And you can find me all around town. And 2 major events that I'm doing next month in August 12th at 8 a.m. on the North Pier in Kincardine, free yoga class facilitated by me, and then we have free breakfasts that day, and we're doing the week after on the Saturday of the 19th, and that'll be 8 a.m. as well, sunrise yoga session. We're to as many people as we can. You can pre-register through Penatang Gear, which is a gear shop in downtown on Kincardine, and breakfast by Beans Bistro and the Green Willow with the Fine Fettle, and get a little gift bag, and then hopefully we're going to jump off the pier afterwards. Anybody wants to do that. And then I'm going to march over to Farmers Market, because we should support our local farmers too.
100%. All right. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, that was lovely.
Yeah. So shoot me an email, call, whatever you need to do.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. And yeah, our sponsors for today's show are, of course, Pick Studio. We are in Pick Studio. What can I say about Pick Studio that Patrick would have said, but he just walked away. We do music lessons, art lessons, all sorts of stuff. Come on, check us out. And also, GemWeb. GemWeb. Bob, do you want to come in and do a little plug for GemWeb for us real quick?
If you want a website, go to gemweb.com.
There we go. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thanks, guys.